Welcome back. So, we've figured out how we can build our melodic structure based on the function of chords. We've figured out how to make a scale so that we have all 7 notes in that scale. And now what we're going to do is one of my favorite things is teaching you how to go back and forth, making that conscious decision to playing guitar-centric licks that are a key-centered approach, meaning I'm playing this scale over this progression, and you have your vocabulary in those patterns that we all know and love, versus making that melodic distinction in your brain and your ear to think we're connecting this chord to this chord with the melody. And the great melody makers, the great improvisers, tend to go back and forth. So I'm going to change the track for this one. This one is going to be a la Franklin's Tower. So this is going to have 3 different chords. You're going to have A major, G major, and D major. And the groove is kind of like this. A. So what you'll notice there, you have 3 major chords. You have an A, a G, and a D. Remember, your 1, 4, 5s are major. So where do you have 2 major chords, 1 full step apart? The 4 and the 5. So that means A is 5, G is 4, and D is 1. So that means we're technically in the key of D major, or a mixolydian. So generally, when people solo over this track, they'll say, play a mixolydian, which is an A major scale with a flat 7, right? It's an A with a G in it. So that's going to be approach number 1. We're going to play the track, and I'm going to play just like I would. Right? Play that mixolydian scale. If you're not familiar with the scale, there's tons of lessons on the site that go over that. I would encourage you to check it out and come back. But it's just A major, but a flat 7 instead of a regular 7. I'm going to play through that. And then the next time through, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus to make a melody off of A and then a melody off of D. Because this sounds to me like G is kind of just the passing chord. It's not there for long enough to be its own island, its own moment in time. Like the last lessons we've done where we did the B and A, where each chord was equal length and you had enough time to say something about each chord. When chords move quickly, you might have a chance to say 1 note or 2, but it's not like it's its own focus. Where this, if you listen to it, you can clearly hear that it's A, D, A, D. It's its own. The A and the D are the focal points. So I'm going to play through this the first time, and I'm just going to play a mixolydian. I'm going to be thinking in terms of that's the scale I'm playing. I'm not going to be thinking about connecting chords. Here we go. The obvious takeaway, what you should hear from there, is that I'm only resolving to A. Every tension and release point I'm playing is saying something about A. So I'm, everything is about That A, the whole story of what I'm doing is about A, and I'm just playing G's instead of G sharps because that's mixolydian. Now this time through, you're going to see me do that 1, 2, 3 approach, connect my pentatonics for A, and then when I go to D, I'm going to do the same thing. And you'll hear me make that, you'll hear the switch, that it's A time, and then it's D time. Here we go. Can you hear and can you see that I'm thinking it's time for A, it's time for D. It's time for A and it's time for D. And you can see me using the exact same simple 1, 2, 3 melodic approach, basic pentatonics to outline each of those chords. So now, the third time, I'm going to go back and forth between the two. And this is an art. People spend their whole careers trying to develop this internal voice of how long do I play a lick versus how long do I play a melody? How guitar-centric do I get versus how vocal do I get? And this is something that we all work on, and it's entirely up to you what you hear in your head. But I would encourage you, when practicing, to have some discipline and say, okay, the first 5, 10, whatever number it is, times through the progression, I'm going to think about playing licks. I'm going to think about my key center. And then the next time, say, I'm going to spend this exact same amount of time thinking about melodies, and then shorten it. So here we go. I'll talk you through it. So I'm going to start with the melodic approach. Nice and simple. 1, 2, 3 on A. Find a chord tone of D. Do it again. Now I'm going to do a lick. Now I'm back into a melody. Lick. Melody. Starting to get it? This is how we build peaks and valleys. This is how we, go out and then snag the listener back in. People's ears are attracted to melodies. They are. But that doesn't mean that we're not guitar players, that we don't like to fire off a bunch of licks, that it's a ton of fun to switch it up, to go a little more aggressive or a little more outside and do things that are, for lack of a better term, guitar-centric, guitar-specific, things you can only do on a guitar. And I think the best improvisers, especially in this genre, strike a great balance, and it's a personal balance, between the two. So, in our next scene, we're going to bring up the same jam track here, and I want you to practice this. I want you to practice going back and forth, playing your licks in A, thinking A7, A Mixolydian, whatever, but thinking the whole story's about A, and then flipping it and saying, okay, I'm going to make a melody on A, and then I'm going to make a melody on D. You can do it. I'll see you there.